Thank you, Tofara. I am delighted to be here. Contrary to your expectations, I would rather be here than anywhere else. It's always amazing what people think, who they think you are, until they find out who you are. Come to Management. I was born in Highfield, very local, and what a privilege to join this distinguished panel of speakers. And I normally, when I'm speaking to young entrepreneurs, I don't want to kill you by PowerPoint. I normally like to have a conversation. And I like to also flow with the audience because you just don't know who you're going to present to. And sometimes they're a lot more clever than you are. So you actually put up a PowerPoint after spending the night to discover that you are actually an audience. You actually are aware. So I'm not going to take that risk. But I'm going to discuss a topic and take it from my perspective. This whole issue of entrepreneurship, the whole issue around innovation and creativity is a subject that's very, very dear to my heart. And so I can speak almost blindfolded, as it were. And so I would like to try and speak for about 45 minutes, and then we can have a Q&A session for as long as we like. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about, number one, is to tell you where I think the correct template for creativity and innovation should come from for an entrepreneur. So that's point number one. If you missed anything about my talk, I think just hold on to that one fact. Where is the best template? Okay. Number two, I also want to look at great inventions and great innovators. And I want to look at them from the greatest inventions ever made. I want to also look at it from the perspective of who those people are. And then I want to bring it back home and draw it home towards African entrepreneurs. Maybe the 10 or 20 greats that are there. And these are historical. And then I want to bring it even closer to you. To say, where are the Zimbabwean innovators and entrepreneurs? And then that will allow me to talk a little bit about what I've done in that space. And then perhaps to give you a prescription of how you could do it. So I hope that makes sense. So let's start. And you know, I like to start at the beginning. The beginning is actually contained in Genesis chapter 1, where I believe we actually get the quintessential entrepreneur, the genius, God Himself, God Almighty. He is the creator, He is the quintessential entrepreneur, He is the innovator, the inventor, the creator, the alchemist, the scientist, the manufacturer, the ecosystem builder. So all you do is just go to chapter 1 of Genesis, and as an entrepreneur, it's my favorite chapter. Because it kind of epitomizes Fio, where I grew up, or Zimbabwe, which epitomizes the perfect storm. Anything and everything that's wrong and not conducive for you to start. I heard my sister as I walked in. I think it happens here. We just don't have what it takes. And if you read the Bible, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm a Christian, no apology there. But it speaks of confusion and darkness, isn't it? It says the earth was without void. There was complete darkness. In other words, there was chaos. The chaotic situation the previous speaker spoke about. And that spells opportunity. In China, the word chaos actually means opportunity. Are we together? So if you look at the African continent where we hail from, I think there is that darkness, there is that confusion, and therefore it is pregnant with opportunities. Are we together? And that's just the way I look at the world. To say, if there is chaos, can you bring light? Because that's what God did, isn't it? Amid the darkness, amid the confusion, my sister leads services, and she says, you guys suck. Now, if we suck, that really means there's an opportunity. We can enlighten people. And that's what God did. So God enlightened, God worked. God must have had a plan. God must have thought deeply about what he could do with this darkness. And then bring order and ecosystems. And he began to work. He began to work his plan. He must have dreamed. And I mean, for this thing to work as perfectly as it does, this must have been a powerful dream. Are we together? So start where you are. Start with what's in your hands. Start with the opportunity that is there. Start with your area of passion and interest. That will enable your creative juices to flow. You will work like God did and not get paid. Are we together? And by the way, God worked for 12 hours a day. The typical work day, if you look at your work contract, those of you that work, how many are working for somebody? Raise your hands, please. Raise them high, don't be shy. Okay. I worked once upon a time. It's good to work because you learn discipline. And your work contract actually says what? You are hired to work for 8 hours. Now if you go beyond that, guess what? You give overtime. And most people in Zimbabwe, because it is Zimbabwe, you don't get paid overtime. Isn't that so? So I would say put in a minimum of 8 hours of work to your work, your primary activity. If you are unemployed, how many are unemployed here? Don't be shy, raise your hands, I got answers for you. If you're unemployed, guess what? Put in 8 hours of solid work to something, that one thing that could be of interest to you. Are we together? Those that work, if you actually read the word of God, in Genesis it says, you worked for 12 hours. While it was light, or while it was day, you worked. And so I believe that if you're an entrepreneur, you work like God worked. It's a 12-hour work day. It's not normal. You go beyond the normal. The norm is 8. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a creator, it means you go beyond the 8. The extra mile means you put in the hours. If you have a diversified business, like I have many interests, you've got to choose one ideally every season and put in the standard 8-hour working hours that are required. Are we together? So you put in your 8 hours to one primary activity. If you have other interests like I have, then you can put in another 4 hours or whatever into the areas of other interests. Okay. Now don't become a workaholic. I would always say don't go beyond the 12. If you're successful, you want life balance, you do the 8 by 8 by 8. What does that mean? 8 hours of work, 8 hours to pursue your interests and hobbies, 8 hours to rest. I'm a mdala, so I need the rest. Are we together? But that gives you balance. You need that balance. Why do you need that balance? So that your creative juices can keep flowing. So that your energies, if God rested, who are you to work 24 hours in a day? Hello? Okay? So have some sense of balance within your life. And we teach that at our institute, that you need A successful entrepreneur is actually a balanced entrepreneur. Okay, there will be days when the pressure is on, you've got to put in extra hours, you've got a project on the go or whatever, but do take a rest. Are we together? Why? Because God rested. Then I want to come to the most exciting part of Genesis chapter 1. And that goes to verses 27 and 28. And I think those are the key verses for an entrepreneur who is creative and innovative. Once you've created this thing, I don't know what that thing is. That thing, for me, that thing was a bank. Starting a bank from scratch. I didn't know any African who had done it, so I'm a pioneer in that respect of focusing on trading only, trading securities. And that's what I had a passion in. I love that compound interest formula, although I failed A-level maths. But the mere fact that this was money, you put a sign, then I'll get a first class. Are we together? The mathematics of finance, just fascinating. The eighth wonder of the world, called compound interest. Money can work for you while you sleep. That just got my adrenaline going. And so why do I say whatever is of interest? You find your passion. Because when you find your passion, guess what? You will research it. You will read around it. You will know the pioneers in the field. Most of the things that we think we are actually creating that are new, they're actually not new. They've been invented already. And maybe sometimes you are perfecting an idea. Are we together? But find that one thing. What is that one thing? That one thing that can keep you up at night. That one thing that you can research. That one thing that you'll go to the ends of the world to actually meet people who have conquered in that field. And I was willing to pay the price in my area called fixed income securities trading. You know, if that sounds sophisticated, a discount house. Trading treasury bills, trading government stocks, and making money out of it. Seeing how the prices change when interest rates go up and down. I mean, that may be very boring to some of you. But for me, I knew it was a mechanism of building a fortune. And boy, did I build it. By age, what? I don't know, 28, I was a millionaire. I started the bank at 27. Are we together? How many are above 27? It's not too late, but the point is you've got to find that one thing that will keep you awake at night. That one thing that you can investigate and interrogate, and it becomes your passion. Then what do you do with that one thing? And it's part of your DNA. We are different. If we went around the room right now, we would get as many ideas as there are people. Or maybe not, because we normally have copycats in the room, isn't it? Okay? But most of the time, guess what? It's in your DNA. You know what excites you. And that one thing that excites you is the thing you want to get into. Okay? So Genesis 1:27 says, God created human beings. And I want you to listen carefully to this template. It says God created human beings in his own image. It says that once. Then it repeats, in the image of God he created them. Twice. Third time it says, male and female he created them. Is there something wrong with God here? I think that emphasis, the triple emphasis, is to tell you and I that we are godlike.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Some of you didn't get it. It's to tell you and I that we are godlike. In other words, what God has just done in the first 26 verses, creating something out of nothing, that's alchemy. It shows we have that in our DNA. Are we together? We can create an idea. We can create a product. We can create a service and service clients differently. Why? Because we are unique human beings, all of us. And so we can create unique products, unique services. We have unique giftings. And so we must exploit that to the hilt. Are we together? And then what do we do? Verse 28 says, then God blessed them. Let's stop right there. Shows you and I are blessed. Turn to your neighbor and say, I am blessed.
I am blessed.
No. Say it like you mean it.
I am blessed.
That sounds more from that. Are we together? Capital, go back to that scripture because it says what? So it shows. Is there US dollars mentioned in that chapter? No. I don't see any US dollars there. Do you? It's hard work. It's thinking, isn't it? It's working the hours. It's putting in the hours. Are we together? So creativity does not necessarily, having money is not a necessary and sufficient condition for innovation. I hope you got that. Having money or capital is not a necessary and sufficient condition for being an innovator. If a Highfield boy could start a bank from scratch, why can't you did it too? I started the bank in an office. I was too scared, talk of being scared to father, I was too scared to sign the lease agreement. So I went down this very road to a friend who had a nice boardroom. I had been in his boardroom. I wore my best suit and I said, lend me your boardroom for 3 months and I will start a bank from here. The bank existed, it was in my head. I had worked for 5 years for a banking institution similar to the one I was going to create. I had worked just for 1 year in the Reserve Bank, which superintends all banks. I had studied money and banking like a nerd. When others were at SU having a ball, I was in the library reading how to start banks as a student. I had this one passion, this thing, I had to do it. Are we together? So by the time I knocked on the door of this guy and asked Preston to borrow his boardroom for 3 months, the bank was already in existence. I had been made a director at age 24. I don't know anyone who's a bank director at age 24. Hello? But what was it? It was passion. It was study. It was interest. Are we together? So I don't care what field you are in. You guys are so clever. You do all these tech stuff. The principles are just the same. The principles are just the same as they were when God created the world. You put in the hard work, you think through it, you try things, and guess what? You inspect your own work. That's what God did. Every time He created something, He didn't wait for the neighbor or somebody else to come and say, the devil to come and say, no, this thing doesn't work. He inspected His own work and He said, it is good. Hello? So the prototype is there. You work your plan, you work it so hard, make sure that it is good, if not very good. Are we together? Then, to me, that next verse really attracts me. It says when God blessed them, so that's the first conversation God had with man, to advise him who he was, that he was blessed. Okay? And woman. Then he said, be fruitful. Now the way this entrepreneur reads the Bible, it doesn't mean go and create kids. That's how most of you read. Be fruitful be productive. You are reading the Bible like an entrepreneur. He has given us the seed, isn't it? So make it produce fruit. Be productive in that one thing that you've chosen. Produce. Next instruction. These are instructions. My Bible is in inverted commas. He blessed them. There's no quotation marks. But in the instructions, the first instruction it says, be fruitful. So where you are, just turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, are you being fruitful? Not I have 4 wonderful adult kids between Caroline and I. So I am fruitful in that sense. I'm not saying don't have kids. Chanakira said don't have kids. No. I have lots of them. Okay. Then the second thing he says is multiply. So in other words, when you have an idea, make that idea productive. And then what? Multiply. In other words, duplicate it. Are we together? Third thing. Reign over the earth. In other words, have dominion over the earth. Go local, go regional, go global. And technology can help you do that. That's the thrill of being born in your age. Some of you start saying, no, Nigel, you are lucky, you were born at the right time. No. You guys have got so much technology at your fingertips. I wish I was younger. I wish I was born in your age. Why? Because you have technology. So you can multiply. They say local. That's the word. Go global. In other words, local and global. Are we together? Yes. And then govern. In other words, manage. Because some of us build empires and then we can't manage them. They run amok. Are we together? And management is so critical. I don't care what discipline it is. And I'm actually sitting with the Ministry of Education, Primary and Secondary Education, the Ministry of Tertiary Education, and I am wanting to form a university. And my university will start at ECD and then go on to primary and secondary school. And I want to develop this very model, I'm telling you, prototype from a young age. Because they say a kid, if you can get a kid between the age of 1 and 5 and teach them to think differently, guess what? The product and outcome is going to be very different. So those of you who are parents, what are you feeding your kids? I don't mean food. I mean spirit and intellectual capacity. Because the way I was fed, I grew up behind the counter. I grew up touching money. I'm the product of I'm a third generation entrepreneur. The Sekuru Chanakira was the first African recorded at the National Archives to start a bus company. That's what the record said. And then he passed it on to his kids. And my dad and his brothers had a company called Modern Express. They had buses, they had shops, and my dad was in charge of the shops. So guess where I grew up? Like a little Indian kid behind the counter, counting money. So the mathematics didn't come from being taught, no. You teach me what algebra, I can't. But on adding money, are we together? So it's important that we discover what we're teaching our kids. Are we together? What we feed them becomes an integral part of who they become. And if we can change our curriculum, already we are doing that. Last year we did 160,000 kids. got a program. I'm the chairman of an organization called Junior Achievement Zimbabwe. And what we do is we focus on work readiness, financial literacy, business, economics 101 for young kids. And we aim at helping kids to start appreciating business. And I'm absolutely delighted. Yesterday I handed over the prize at Maranatha Christian School, and they won the Junior Achievement Continental Award for a little business enterprise they started as Form 5 or lower 6 kids. They deserve a round of applause. So for the past 20 years, we've been playing around with curriculum for school kids at a young age. And I remember I seeded $1 million some 25 years ago into that institute so that we could actually learn how to teach people from a young age to be entrepreneurial. Don't you wish you had been taught how to be entrepreneurial at a young age? Don't you wish you had been taught making money make sense at a young age? That would have enabled you to then scale up your business. So if you look at this prototype that I've just given you, that's the prototype Bill Gates uses. They create something, or even, to develop a cell phone. It's an idea, isn't it? They play around with technology. They look for smart kids to develop the software. They create something that looks beautiful. And then what do they do? So that's the idea. They do what's known as proof of concept. So you try it out. And when you try it, it doesn't always work. Isn't it? But then you perfect it. Once you perfect it, even if you're selling an imperfect product, as long as there's somebody who wants that product, then you what? You multiply those sales. You start at the local level. You get a lot of feedback if you start at the local level. Then you go regional, across cultures. And then you go continental, and then you go global. Are we together? That's the same prototype I'm using for the apps that I've co-founded. I've got an app, finance is my game, entrepreneurship is my game, so I stick to knitting. So I've got an app called Cash Flow Optimizer for the individual. It teaches an individual making money make sense. It allows you to produce 3 statements, which a lot of innovators and scientists don't have. The capacity to be entrepreneurial and the capacity to understand money. Money, everyone wants it. Even the pastors want it. The gospel isn't free, so they want money. Are we together? So there's nothing for free. And what you want to do with whatever product you have is test it. We've been testing for the past since 2013 when we formed the apps. We've only got 16,000 users. But it now works. It sits on global systems. It's available in any currency. Are we together? And now we need to scale it up. And when I scale it up, I will be the billionaire that I was supposed to. Are we together? So you must have that ambition and not be shy about your ambition. So I don't know what your idea is. Develop the idea, create a prototype, test it, sell it locally, sell it regionally, sell it globally, and I think you're there. Are we together? I think I've spoken too long on this one. I'm a part-time preacher. Psalm 82 verse 6 and 7 says, "You are gods," small g. "You are all children of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals and fall like every other ruler." In other words, if you don't know who you are, you will just be a has-been. You will just be a was here type of person, and you won't do anything extraordinary. So go out and become all that God created you to be. I think our culture, we tend to think everything foreign is lacquer, everything foreign is nice. And our ambitions have become, I need to leave Zim and go to some other domicile. Been there, done that. You can do it from here, guys. Are we together? If you travel for exposure. If you want to go and work elsewhere, yes, you are free to go and work elsewhere. But I think there's no beautiful country like Zimbabwe.
Yes.
I went away and came back. I feel like an alien when I'm out there. And so we can build multinational companies right from here. Let's look at the top 20 greatest innovations of all time. Some of them you would laugh. And it really depends who ranks them. And I've got two rankings here. One ranking says the wheel. The wheel is everywhere. Wheel. Okay, they were used in Mesopotamia 300 years ago for war, created to create chariots for war. Are we together? Great invention. Another one, the printing press. Great life-changing invention. To enable people to learn how to write and read, isn't it? And then publish. Great invention, the plow. The plow allowed for soil to be moved and changed more readily and to mix the nutrients. The fourth one, cement. These are very humble innovations. Come to think of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then the fifth one, the steam engine, for transporting heavy goods. The flush toilet. I mean, what would we do without that thing? And then anesthesia was invented only in the mid-1800s. I'm not sure what it was used for before, what was used before they could anesthetize people. Then the aeroplane. And then semiconductors. The radio. And then the 20 with one, genetics. So I mean, you look at all these, they had an origin. There was somebody experimenting and playing with something. Are we together? And so whichever way you can look at it. I mean, if you ask another person, if I ask you what the greatest inventions are, you may have your own list, isn't it? Some would say the greatest invention was beer, or wine, or the sword. It just depends what you use, isn't it? And what is relevant for you. Some would say antibiotics, or green energy, or nuclear devices. I mean, the list goes on and on. All these were inventions, innovations. But here is the thing. The trick is not just the idea and information. The trick that comes from the template is being able to duplicate it and sell it and find a buyer. All these goods and services didn't have buyers. They didn't have consumers. Some of the consumers were taught to consume the product. Nobody ever imagined an iPhone would be what it is. Nobody knew what an iPhone was. It was a figment of somebody's imagination. Are we together? And we can go on and on. And what amazes me is some of the innovations actually came from African Americans. It's amazing. And I'm going to leave you in the interest of time. Just go and Google great African innovators. You'll be amazed what comes out of them. And some of these people, I mean, George Washington Carver, his focus was on one thing, a peanut, Zungu. And he discovered over 200 uses of
of a peanut. Now, isn't that amazing? Over 200 uses for a peanut. And then some of them went commercial, like peanut butter that you love so much. Are we together? Are we together? Cooking oil. So I mean, we can do literally anything that we are passionate about. And these were black folks like you and me. Some of them didn't even invent things. These great Africans like Strive Masiwa, he didn't even invent the cell phone. He just brought it. He was the first to discover it and bring it to Zimbabwe. And I remember him saying to me as an investment banker, there are only 100,000 fixed line, there were like 120,000 fixed line telephones in the year 1996 when I first met this guy. And he said there's this little gadget that has been discovered, and I want to put a phone in the hand of every Zimbabwean. At the time, I knew the population of Zimbabwe was 7 million because I was a Dibale supporter. And I couldn't imagine that every Dynamo's supporter would be holding a cell phone. But today, some of you even have 2 or 3 of these gadgets. Are we together? Yes. So, innovation doesn't necessarily mean you discover. Innovation means maybe you are just a pioneer. And of course, guess who pioneered cell phone banking in Zimbabwe? It wasn't Strive, it was yours truly. Are we together? So mobile banking I brought here to Zimbabwe. And the first mobile banking platform was actually developed by a fellow African called Valentine Obi. And I discovered him in Lagos, Nigeria. So he had written code on how to move money or send messages that were encrypted. And I took a fascination and rode on the network that my brother Strive had built. And within a short space of time, we had 300,000 cell phone users in Zimbabwe moving money. It was called cell card. Those of you who remember. And Strive so loved the idea and created EcoCash. What's the moral of that story? The pioneer is not necessarily the one who is going to make most of the money out of it. Hello? If somebody has a better and more effective delivery mechanism than a great idea that you have, they're going to work your butt. Are we together? They're going to copy you. And it may be a Christian brother for that matter. Are we together? So we should be excited about our ideas. We should also be excited about continuously improving our ideas. We should be even more excited about commercializing our ideas. We should be obsessed about scaling our ideas. Then we can be called true entrepreneurs. Are we together? If you just create something, you know there are some inventions, and you can Google it. Some seemingly clever inventions that are actually useless to mankind. And Google them. There are thousands of ideas that have not been used and that have not gone commercial. Are we together? So the whole idea is to be able to actually build a business with systems and processes that allow you to discover things. Some of that genius can come out of our young Maxwell Chikumbu, I think is his name. Remember, he's done a radio frequency generation of electricity. Apparently there are radio waves flowing through the earth because it's spinning. And he discovered how to capture those radio waves and actually generate an electric current out of that. And I'm fascinated. And when I heard of this guy, I went to see this TV that was powered by a Zimbabwean. Okay? Didn't go to school, didn't study engineering. Now I'm not saying don't go to school. Because I think those are some of the limitations that I see having worked with entrepreneurs, having worked with pioneers. I've seen some of them fail because they don't understand the commercialization. They don't understand how to build a business from scratch and put management systems and delegate authority and power to people. That's what we call management. Now those who then are confined to that world will be paid royalties maybe, if they're clever enough. They'll be paid for innovating, maybe lumps of money. But the people who actually make a fortune are the people who can conceptualize an idea or copy an idea and take it commercial and be able to scale it and actually go global. That is the secret of your success. Are we together? And so we have them. So go on and build a legacy. I think I've talked for more than 45 minutes. Let me stop here. As I said, I can talk all day long. I always close my talks by saying, see you at the top. The bottom is overcrowded. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor. Shake my hand now. So see you at the top. The bottom is overcrowded. I thank you. So we can do Q&A.
Yes.
Got a roving mic?
Yes. Wow. I've got no comments. Do you have any comments? I'm sure everyone is thinking deeply like I am. I'm really thinking if I have started this journey of entrepreneurship. That was a powerful story. Thank you, Doc. I'll get questions and at the same time also invite all our speakers to come to the front so that we also then ask all our questions in the next 15 minutes. You can actually name them, whoever you want to direct the question.
All right, thank you. My name is Spencer Mkona, and my question is directed to Nigel Chanakira. You see, other speakers were talking about entering the blue ocean, okay, where there is low competition, all right, and creativity and innovation are some of the key ingredients in terms of entering that market. But what challenges do we have in terms of commercializing innovation in Zimbabwe? You gave an example of Maxwell Chikunguzo, who came up with innovative ideas and actually came up with prototypes, but he's not here now. What is the challenge in terms of the Zimbabwe environment commercializing creative ideas? We have got innovative hubs, we've got research and development centers, but commercializing of those innovations, we are not seeing much. What is the problem? Thank you.
Okay, Spencer, Zim is what we would call the perfect storm. It has all the ingredients of what could go wrong with an economy. And I'm an economist, and I actually at some point in time left Zim because it's terrible. I mean, hyperinflation, just for an entrepreneur, for one to wrap your mind around inflation of 1,000% per annum. I mean, like, okay, I love compound interest, but it's just too much. Are we together? So our environment is not necessarily the most conducive for a baby to be born. But I would always say, if your baby can survive in this harsh climate, where there is no forex, there's a shortage of forex, there's a shortage of private equity, which is equity or capital which can be put at risk, and where people are prepared to accept the failure and the non-performance of that. We also are short of capital at the right level. And so quite a number of ideas. Yes, I may say you don't need capital to start a business, but at some point in time you need money to oil the business. Now, where does that money come from? So ordinarily, and I think our thought process and our training is also wrong. Because most of us actually believe if you want to start a business, you go to a bank. Hello? That's wrong. That's the wrong starting point. And so our schooling and our mindset is all wrong, because you don't go to a bank and say, lend me money so I can start a business. That's not how it happens in the world. Are we together? So in the world, in the developed world, you can actually go to a private equity firm or a venture capital company, and where you can start a project from scratch, and people will buy into your ideas. And I always say, money will always follow a compelling vision, sound character, a solid business plan, and great, enticing financials. I don't know if you caught that. Money will always follow a compelling vision, a great project plan, a solid one, enticing financials that offer a sexy rate of return. Dr. Nyasubata. Are we together? Because people don't just give you money. People give you money not out of altruism or because you look good, Spencer. No, you're a handsome guy. No. Or because you're black and you need to get out of poverty. No. Real money comes to you when people say, if I can give this money to Spencer, can he use it for what he says he's going to use it and give me my money back plus more? That's what people buy. And if you understand that bit, then a bank is not the right place to go. If you come and join my classes, I tell you, there are 3 people to really get money from when you are starting. I call it the 3 F's. Family, friends, and fools. Are we together? That's soft money. That allows you to experiment. And if you can give them back, they'll give you more. So where did I get my money from? I got my money from Caroline, my sweetheart. I'd been dating her from varsity when I was a nerd, and I persuaded her as I rose up the ranks. We had a family home, and when I needed $250,000 to start a bank, as my best friend, I nudged her and I said, Caroline, lend me the money. Let's sell this home. Let's go back to Highfields. We both from Highfields, and we went back to Highfields. Sold the house, and that was the startup capital for Kingdom. I didn't go to my dad. He believed in me. He could have given me some money, but it was nowhere near the $250,000 I needed. To play it safe, what did I do? I looked for other crazy guys like me. I got 4 partners who said, yeah, let's start. And we started a bank as 5 partners contributing into equity. Are we together? So don't go to a bank. What we need in Zim is more private equity companies, more venture capital companies, and then also to learn how to ride this tiger that is called Zimbabwe, because it is so volatile. They call it VUCA Zimbabwe, volatile, unpredictable, complex, and what's the A for? Anybody? Ambiguous. So it's a VUCA economy. But if I can survive in a VUCA economy, if I can did it, why can't you? Exactly. So you can survive. You start humbly. I started from one boardroom, borrowed chairs, borrowed offices. The only thing that I had was my computer and my printer, because I understood the science of banking down to the fact that all people needed, was a telephone line, a computer to work out the deals, print out their deal notes, and voila. I didn't need a big boardroom. I didn't need a fancy car. So, humble beginnings is the way to start. I hope you are answered.
More questions?
And this one is for you again, Mr. Chanakira. If there's anything that you learned and you took away from Kingdom Financial Holdings, what was it? What did you take that you can tell us that you use today from everything that went on?
Okay, you're kind of preempting my book. I'm doing my autobiography. So you're going to get a sneak preview. So there are a lot of lessons that I could learn. But I would probably say the one big thing for me, or maybe let me say two things, is humble beginnings. You can start from zero. That's a big takeaway. Because you all know my story, isn't it? I don't know who hasn't heard my story of that very modest beginning. The second key thing is I retired after 7 years. It was always my ambition to retire, set up an institution and retire and make my millions and then follow my real passion. And my real passion is teaching, as you can hear. I'm a teacher naturally. And I like to lecture. That's why I'm going to create a university, a business university. Making Money Make Sense was all about teaching financial literacy. But the big second takeaway for me was the fact that, I'm trying to look at you, but the camera is... The real issue is there is always room for a good player. I was entering a market which was already populated. And this is something some of you need to learn. There is always room for what? A good player. So if you're going to enter into any field, ideally you want to be the first one. But you may not be the first. Now, how can you do things better in that field? And I can assure you, if I am going to re-enter into banking, I'm going to do it from that key learning that I will do a survey of Zimbabwean banks. I will do a survey of global banks and then come back with a product that is better than what is being offered. Are we together? So those are two takeaways for you then. I hope from my numerous lessons, at least you got those two nuggets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe while someone else is looking, okay, we've got Chamu.
And please, I'm no longer the only guy up here. Please direct questions to the others.
I think I'll direct one of my questions to Mr. Utiete. The issue of resilience. We are quitting too soon as entrepreneurs. And I believe that this journey is not easy. And I think also establishing your business was not easy as well. What would you give us as an encouragement not to quit?
Let me start by saying it is indeed very hard. It's not easy. I mentioned earlier that entrepreneurship requires you to have an infinite mindset, continuously evolving. When you start something, it's scary because you have to have all the answers. And then suddenly you've grown your company and you're stuck because you don't understand the full picture of finances, you don't understand marketing, you don't understand the HR. And it's scary. And that's how ugly it can get at entrepreneurship. And suddenly you have all your weaknesses exposed. It's scary. Very. And you have to make decisions with limited information. But one thing that I learned is that no one knows everything. Your parents, as good as they are, as old as they are, they're still trying. So my best advice to you is for you not to quit, is to understand that the path you're taking is yours. And if you understand the other thing I said, the why, you will get there. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our speakers. I think I did benefit from all of you. My question is directed to all of you actually. Of late I've seen in the way I've been growing, I've noticed that they are what we are calling corporate bullies. So I know with all your stories to success, can you kindly briefly share how your little experience with corporate bullying, because this is what we are facing, how you managed to navigate that. I think I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Since I hold the mic, I'll go first. It's an interesting that you should say that, because earlier on, when I was starting my business, it almost didn't come to life because of that. So for those who are not aware, Takeold Engineering is an electrical contracting company with the premise of looking into industrial automation and medium and high voltage. So that field predominantly, was shelved for the previous colonial masters, so to say. There are very few black-owned companies who were in that space, especially with the relationships of the manufacturers, who are all of them Western. So to even get into that field, you need to have access to be able to buy these things. So me being a black Zimbabwean, in the storm that Dr. Nigel Chanakira was talking about, it was hard. You can't buy these things. And there's a local company in here, better relations with the OEMs, they'll block. You can't. It was a good solid 8 months of trying to convince them why a startup company can deal with a company which is 125 years old with a turnover of 1.7 billion a year. But fortunately enough, the leap of faith came in. I went there, talked to them, they still didn't buy. But I believe God put one black man in that room who was able to stand for me. And that guy called me up later after the meeting, said, we need to meet somewhere, discuss what you really want to do. And we had a discussion. He flew me to South Africa, met two other people of our color. This is by chance. It's not something that you can say, I was wise about it. It was just by chance that God put him there, and he allowed me to have these partnerships to carry on. I'll give my mic to the next guy.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned the story of the Red Ocean. whereby you're getting into a space, there are obviously more established players, but you have to look at yourself evolving, continuously moving. If you noticed in the deep seas, fish are always moving because of sharks. Same concept with red oceans. If you don't move, and on an entrepreneurial level, we are looking at evolving. If you don't evolve, basically if you get stuck, you're going to be eaten, or you're going to wait for scraps from fellow fish to be eaten. So continuous evolving, and also trying to always look at the vision. Do you want to remain in that space with those sharks, or do you want to do something different? That is yet to be realized, yet to have a demand, and yet to have value. So that's what differentiates you and should keep you going. So corporate bullies, the good thing about them is they're rarely do the actual shareholders block you, but it's mostly the executives or the salary, a paycheck. We have maybe a false sense of ownership. So you find that as much as they'll block you, it's blind blocking. You see, they'll only go so far. Like what engineer just said now, one of the guys then called him aside. If these guys really wanted to block him, they would have pursued him. But they only said, Lord, you can't buy from us, and that's it. So it's merely evolving, finding different space, and doing things differently. And especially when you're dealing with customers, it's about relationships. Relationships are key. If you move jobs, you move with your customers. If you move countries, chances are your customers will follow you as well. And worse even, or better even, they'll refer more business to you.
Thank you so much.
May I just say something? Sometimes we have problems in lives that we consider them the mountains, but we know that the valleys and the lakes are on the other side. And we need to go over the mountain to get to the productive valleys. Yes? But what can we do? The mountain is too high. We can't go over it. We can't go around it. We can't go under it. What do? We become bigger than the mountain. And that is all of us who are saying today, in your mind, in your vision, you become bigger than the mountain. When that happens, everything else aligns to where you want to be in that valley. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Okay, become bigger than the mountain.
Thank you. I think I'll take the last two questions, 1 and 2. Thank you.
What's your take on the Zambia's economy of business?
He's actually one of my mentees. I coached him. Good to see you here. I think Zambia, I've done business in Zambia. I am doing business in Zambia at the moment. Obviously, they've rebounded from where they were before. I remember when we grew up, we used to laugh at the kwacha. Now I don't think we can afford to laugh at the kwacha, which is stronger than the rand. So they've gone through different governments. They've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think they're on a steady trajectory. But as a nation, they are carrying a lot of debt. There's a lot of Chinese in there who basically are quite active within that economy. But it's pretty solid, it's well governed, and I think it's a place to be. Part of that regional play that I spoke about, if you diversify, if you can get into Zambia, the mining area is quite robust. So yeah, I think Zambia is interesting. But let me just speak to being in the region. My own experience of operating businesses in Malawi, Zambia, and Botswana. I had a variety of plays. There were some areas where I went in alone as a business person. And then there are areas where I went in partnership with locals who understand the local environment and the local politics. And without doing the proper character analysis in terms of partnership, I would say quite readily my partnership sank me in Zambia. At least Zambia, I was able to get out with my money and keep my head on my block. In Malawi, it was more brutal. The bank is now one of the biggest banks. I helped create that bank called FDH Bank. But we were kicked out of Malawi. You know, the politics can get ugly. And so there's a culture that you got to watch. I think South Africa is more sophisticated and somewhat a little more tolerant based on my own experience. But I've done business I've visited 18 African countries. I've done business in about 9. And I think you got to be, you got to be wary of the sharks that are there. There's some pretty nasty sharks there. Okay.
Thank you so much. One last question. The mic. So you can just ask. Yes.
Thank you so much for all your presentations. Really, I felt like a whole notebook now. But my question is, can we say entrepreneurship is the ultimate career to making it in life? Because I'm sure everyone here, what we want is to be comfortable, to be more than comfortable, be rich in essence. But then, like maybe what engineer was saying, you've got all these fears, you get into business, you're thinking, okay, I can do cakes, or I can do, like the business is saying, sharing. And then you're thinking, I'm not financial, that's not my field. And then times you're comfortable, and I'm saying I'm in digital marketing. And I know I do well when I have my classes and what have you, but it's not giving you the best when it comes to remuneration or income. So should we say entrepreneurship could be your career, the best career, but and yet you don't necessarily have the skills, and you now have to put that all together. Or you would rather maybe develop in that field that you are already in and see how things do you grow.
I'm not an authority on this, but my strongest belief is that we cannot all be entrepreneurs. It's practically impossible. We spoke about traits that people need when they embark on the journey of entrepreneurship. Those traits alone can weigh you down and you can decide to stay employed. And money, this is another second belief, is not the greatest motivator for you to be an entrepreneur. You at some point you will need to make a decision which asks you to sacrifice yourself for the business. So if money is the end goal, you won't be able to make it. I don't know if that answers your question. Partially. Maybe I'll pass it on to the other guys, maybe. I'll share.
With the mic, I think I've had a taste. I'm not, I guess I'm not your average guy in the sense that I want to have my cake and eat it. So sorry, what's your name?
April, like April.
Okay, April.
Yeah.
So April, here's the thing. Why not try it? Why not try what works for you? So I've been an employee, and then I've had a business with partners, and then I've had my own business, and then I've consulted. So, there's choice assorted. Who says we have to all eat Marie biscuits? Because, so I would rather you actually try and discover who you are. I think you're young enough, okay? And also go with your spirit. Go with your spirit, man. What is your spirit saying? What do you feel like doing? Because that's the heart of an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurship is risk-taking. Now, to answer more concretely, you've probably heard of Jack Welch. Jack Welch was your quintessential intrapreneur. So he worked for GE Electric and took it to another level. And if you read his book, ultimately he became a consultant and ran his own firm. But what appeared to have been the fun years of his life was working for this public enterprise. Are you with me? So, to me, it's really what you feel like doing. And then it's also a question of what God presents to you as an opportunity. And I can count myself as one of those that has been privileged. When I needed a job, I applied for a job. And I got a job at Reserve Bank. I got a job at Bard Discount House. And those were very good jobs. I became a director at a young age. I was earmarked to be CEO. But I thought, well, do I want to be CEO of a company that's owned by somebody? And who am I? I got to be true to myself. I love independence and self-control. And you also, if you read my forthcoming book, I struggled to actually serve in a board which was owned by a lot of powerful shareholders. And they became kind of like corporate bullies in my world. In their world, they were just guarding their capital. In my world, from my vantage point as me, I thought these guys are bullying me to do what they want and not what I want. I'm in the driving seat of Kingdom Mikkels Africa. I think I can take it to another level. I was taking this London-listed company to Wall Street. I mean, who remembers my Wall Street story? I said, I'm going to Wall Street. I was going there. And snap bang in the middle, they stopped me in London. I had come from Highfields, gone to the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, gone to the London Stock Exchange, and I was heading for Wall Street. And guess what? It wasn't my company. So he who owns the company is the one who determines the fate of the company. Are we together? But it all depends on your circumstances and what, hand God allows you to have in your hands. And you play it as well as you can under those circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. I think from the women's perspective, I think that it was mentioned before that, maybe we're a bit less averse to risk, isn't it? My career is very opposite. I started off as a Croatian in a socialist communist country, and I was told, like I think many of you were told, go to school, have good grades, go to university. Without the university, nothing happens in life, and get a job. 40 years later, retire, you'll get a golden watch.
True.
Yeah, not many do now. Do they? Our parents, do they have a golden watch? No, they
bicycle.
don't.
Yeah.
You get a bicycle. Yes. So we have to sort of, as you said, you need to understand really your calling, and you need to understand what are the barriers in your life that you have from where you were brought up, especially if you were not brought up in an entrepreneurial families and surroundings. So I did that. I went to school, had a university. I was actually agronomist. Then I was nutritionist. Then, I was a public health specialist. I worked for UNICEF, for many, many years. I was a good girl. I was a good woman, according to my family.
Followed the
Yes, yeah, I followed the script.
Yes.
I followed the script, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. I absolutely do not regret it. Because in those years as well, we are not all designed to be entrepreneurs. But if you feel that you have that calling, you follow it. If you become an employee and you stay to be an employee, these days, if I didn't have this calling and a love for this country, and my son telling me, Mom, this is home, yes, I would have been a country representative somewhere. Yeah, but that is also okay, because it would have given me the career and it would have given me the financials and everything. There is always price to pay. But if you are like that, then be the best that you can be. You know, be the president of the World Bank. Go international. So grow your career here. Still go regional. Still go international. Yes, and secure yourself like that. But if you have that calling, if you have that spirit in you that is not driven by money, is not driven by money, it's driven by passion, that yearning, then become an entrepreneur. Okay. Yeah.
I think just to answer your question, it's people are different, and the answer lies within. At the end of the day, we need to all ask ourselves, what do I want? Do I want stress? Do I want independence? Or do I want a simple life? Do I want security? In quotes, security. Because nothing is very secure in this world. So people are different. So when you introspect yourself, ask yourself, what do I want? Once you find what you want, everything becomes simple.
I want to be a bit of a maverick. Allow me. So you've heard all the answers, isn't it? And I gave you what I thought was a proper answer. But I think I must add something. Otherwise it will be in the book and you'll say, but Nigel, that's not what you told me. So I had 4 operating principles. If you ask for anyone who worked for me or was a partner with me at Kingdom, they'll tell you we had fun. Okay? So my philosophy is 4 things. I want to glorify God in what I do. Number 1. Number 2, I want to have fun. I'm a fun-loving guy. I don't want to go to a boring job. Okay? Number 3, I want to be of service to people. I love to serve people. If I can serve people, if I can be Tofara's hero because I pitched up and it made her world, then I've served my purpose. Are you with me? Yes. And then number 4, I'm not shy about it. I want to make money. Lots and lots of money. Why? Because I need it. My wife needs it. My kids need it. My relatives need it. My pastor wants it. He's building churches and I'm a church builder. I build hospitals, I build my philanthropy. I make money not for money in its end. Yes, I love nice cars. And believe you me, I will always drive a nice car. The business must always buy me a nice car. You know what I mean? So don't be coy about it if you like money. I just thought, let me dilute this panel a bit because for me, the money side, it's got to make sense. Are you with me? So you got to find legal ways of actually making it in an enjoyable way. I think that's my philosophy. Thanks. I think the engineer, I provoked the engineer now.
He is right. Everybody needs money. But just to add on to what I was saying is, when you start your business, if the goal, everyone starts a business to make money. It's everyone. Yeah. But if your why is just to make money, it's not enough.
Exactly.
It's not enough. Yeah.
Thank you. For
Yes, you can go ahead. Okay.
Thank you all for the last presentations. I'm empowered for this space. I just wanted to ask if the Media Achievements Program is well spread. Because I'm thinking, I grew up not in an entrepreneurial environment, but I'm now a parent. I want to empower my children. Yes. So I want to ask about that. And also your business school. I was so much interested. I believe there's a world came from where that came from, Tatawan and that's what we got today. I believe there's more. Then also about following passionate Well, I was late, guys. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. Indeed. I'm studying accounting as sales and IT consultant. But to fund that business and all the other little things that I need that my salary can't finance right now, savings perfumes. I know you're all business people. You want to smell good. Yes. So savings perfumes. It's a side hustle to finance the main hustle, and I'm not shy about it.
That's good. You already have the attributes of an entrepreneur. If you can't sell, you're not an entrepreneur, guys. And if you can't sell and you're too shy to sell, come and sign up at my school and I'll teach you to sell. I can sell snow to the Eskimos. I mean, that's how I raised money. I probably I did the most rights issues in Zimbabwe. I think that's another record I hold. In terms of getting money from people, I can get your money. But I think on a serious note, junior achievement, we are actually there. We do last year we just did 160 kids, 150,000 kids at a limited number of schools. The ministry wants us now to do all the kids, which is 6.6 million. And so within the next 3 years, we probably need to now go digital on a serious level and scale up. But it's a charity, it's a not-for-profit type activity. The for-profit side is, I run a school. I've always yearned for mentorship and to have be an experienced entrepreneur who could actually lend skills to Africans. That's my passion. That's why I was created. I think God didn't create me for loving Liverpool like many people think I was created to do that. No, my passion is actually to be teaching, to be mentoring, and not just mentoring. My business school is a pracademic one. I want it to be practical so that people go and do things, because we've got too many bookish, teaching around the area of business. And so if you do want, this is a free pitch like you're advertising, come to me and I will show you, but you got to pay top dollar. A lot of people say to me, Nigel, your courses are too expensive. My thing is they are so cheap, you can't afford not to do it. Because the school fees you are going to pay by not joining my classes are heavier than what it would have cost you to spend 10 or 12 weeks with me, when I actually focus on you, your business, and deal with you and your challenges. Because I want you to be the complete entrepreneur. I had the privilege. I was mentored. I was mentored by Strive. Who wouldn't want to be mentored by Strive? And then I taught him a few tricks about listing companies on the stock exchange. So it's a learning experience. It's not that when I teach, I am only teaching. I'm teaching and learning so that I can go out and teach others as well. Are we together? So, it's there. I'm available. I'm available to her. That's why she hired me. And I'm glad I came. Thank you.